Well, thanks very much, and I'm really glad that you sent me the pictures of everybody at the conference, because on the phone I can just see a picture of you, Nick, which is a great pleasure. And and I'm really sorry that I can't be there. But I think everybody in the audience will know how passionate I am about the use of technology in education, both in FE and more broadly. I mean, there's a good reason for that, and that's because I think that we can harness technology to drive up standards. And that's what it's all about. It's about empowering teachers and using technology to improve and strengthen teaching. Now, that may mean that there's some changes in how teaching happens in order to use technology. For instance, becoming more mentoring and more imparting of those very human characteristics in the character that you can't get from the internet. But the power of technology is extremely great. We've seen that in so many other parts of our lives, including this phone call, it hasn't happened to the same extent in teaching. Now, of course, it has happened in lots of individual ways, in lots of individual places. But my main concern is that that has tended to happen despite the government rules rather than because of them. So through FELTAG, what I wanted to do was put real rocket boosters under the use of technology in FE, and not only with recommendations to what the sector can do, to what employers can do, but also, crucially, to what regulators and the government can do directly in order to to enable the use of technology. Now, I am very clear that one of the worst things we can do is decide what technology we think is going to be the best, and then prescribe for it. So it is necessarily a partnership approach, and I mean that in the best sort of sense, that it's necessarily about us playing an enabling role. And I'm delighted with what's come out of FELTAG. It's very thought-provoking, and I'm also glad that we've now got a wider, education-wide technology group, including Michael Gove and David Willits, to cover the emergence of the use of technology across the piece, drawing from FE, where FE leads the rest of education on it. So that's the big picture. You said that the recommendation for a minimum stated proportion of online content drew attention. I think it is interesting. I don't want to be overly prescriptive on the content side of things. There'll be a formal government response. But I would say that I was struck in the States in the autumn that in Florida they prescribed that a minimum of 1/8 of credits are done online and examined online, and I was struck by that proposition then, and now I see it has come up again in the FELTAG report. So, there's a question of how would you implement that without leading to a sort of a tick box response. But if we can find a way to, we'll look at that and think about it, and then come out with a formal response in the next few weeks. So I'm happy to take any questions if the technology allows for that. I've got about another, 5-10 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Minister. That's really brilliant. And should have mentioned earlier as well. Just thank you more generally for taking the time to join us through the air. Is that a technical term? Through the internet. So let me start on the topic that we talked about, and also if you are going to Florida, very much welcome to be on that delegation to have a look at how
no plans to go to Florida. We can find out through the internet how they do things.
Yes. Oh, indeed. Of course. No more trips abroad. That's the new rule.
Steady.
Yeah. So on this point about minimums. Presumably we talked about it in the or I certainly was prodding around. Presumably this has come out of a recommendation from quite a large group that's been running for a little while now, made up of esteemed professionals in this area, on the basis that perhaps the government needs to play more than a corralling and bringing together type of role and sharing of best practice and research. Maybe that we need a stick which comes with the carrot of other things, and it's also I guess, the point I was making doesn't have to come with any new money. It's just about reassigning at provider level the resources. You've looked at Florida, you must have been involved in the conversations on the minimums. What more can you say about this government intervention if it were to be a play? Where are you on that? I think this will certainly help Nick, who's now about to write the response that you're going to publish.
Well, we're going to think about it.
Okay.
I mean that in the genuine sense. I mean, the whole FELTAG process has been very open and very discursive, and the document in first draft was then put on the internet for people to comment on. We're trying to do this in a consultative way. For instance, until just now, I didn't know that was the one of the many recommendations that that people had sort of picked up on and that had become caught a theme. So this is the purpose of these sorts of discussions. I know I sound like I'm completely stalling on giving an answer, but that's because we genuinely want to look at how we might be able to deliver it. I'll give you an example.
Minister, just to add, there was a general consensus in the room that it was a good. I mean, talking to the converted, that it was a good idea. But just before talking about what you've done,
there's a general consensus that I was stalling.
We haven't done a poll on that yet. But there was a question about accessibility, Minister. Can I just cover the issue around accessibility? You're picking up questions from the floor. One of them was about, it's all great, but how do we make sure FE is inclusive in the context of technology and accessibility?
Yeah. Okay. So this is a very important point on two levels. The first is we can't let the best be the enemy of the good. You can't say that until we have 100% coverage of superfast broadband for everybody, you shouldn't do anything that uses superfast broadband, for instance. So we've got to make sure that we move ahead whilst also dealing with the accessibility issues. I see this very much as an S-curve. There are early adopters, and things are moving, already happening amongst early adopters, and then there will, and I sense this moment coming very soon, this is becoming much more mass market. We go up the curve very steeply, and then there'll be, some areas of life where the impact is much less, and then towards the tail end, maybe including for perfectly reasonable logistical and practical reasons, not least in vocational education. Dry stone walling is not going to become an online course very soon. So our approach should be absolutely to go with it and push it, whilst also dealing with accessibility issues. That's the first thing. Second, in terms of capital and capital allocations, we're moving that towards trying to address some of those accessibility issues. But the third is actually that the evidence shows that online education helps those who are most disengaged from learning the most. Not least because some people are disengaged from learning because a teacher teaches at the middle of the class and they get lost from the teaching. And this is one of the big inspirations for the power of online and blended learning for me. And so one of the areas where we're pushing it hardest is actually amongst those who don't have good enough English and maths and are on benefits. And there's a pilot that has been launched today by the Deputy Prime Minister, which involves insisting that for those who don't have a level 2 English and maths, who become unemployed aged 18 to 21, they immediately from day one go on to English and maths courses, and we're piloting that with a purely online only model, the blend model, in order to use technology and perhaps also teach in a way that hasn't suited them at school. And we're doing that under a randomised control trial to find out what works. So, accessibility is important, but we absolutely mustn't say that we should do nothing until we can guarantee full accessibility. I mean, that sounds obvious, but that has been a barrier in the past, and it's one that I'm determined that won't get in our way.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. So we're going to try something which we may lose you, but that's not the intention, I assure you. But I thought it's only fair if we're going to put it to the floor. You saw the floor, so to speak. So we're going to attempt to spin this around so you can get a view, but I'm not sure it's going to work, so bear with me. All right, can you get a wave? Can we have a communal wave? Everyone can see themselves as well on the big screen. Can you see everyone?
Yeah, I can see. I can't see everybody, but I can see lots of waving hands.
Lots of smiling faces. Is there anyone on the floor, while we have the Minister for a few more moments, that would like to ask a question? Yes, right up at the front, over here. Oh, sorry, bear with me, but just... where's the microphone? All right, yeah. So anything else other than the 10% you were expecting a big debate on?
Good question. Not particularly. I just didn't expect it to be the biggest, in as much as I didn't expect it. I didn't really anticipate any particular one of the recommendations to be to have the biggest impact. I thought that the issues around capacity in the sector were likely to take on quite a lot of attention. And I also thought that the section on regulation and open badges would catch a bit of attention as well, which is about ensuring that you can accredit online in a way that transfers. So those, but I wouldn't like to pick out a favourite because I'm enthusiastic about the whole report.
Okay, that's fantastic. Is there anything, Minister, that you would like to add while you're here that we haven't asked you about, or you haven't had an opportunity to say?
Well, no. I mean, if there are, the big picture is that I think this agenda is coming anyway, but I'd love it to accelerate and for us, the government, play our part in making it easier and supporting the use of technology. But come back to the original point, which is it's all about raising standards and using technology to empower teachers to raise standards. I think that's a very important part of getting the approach right.
And presumably the message to the people in the audience who I presume are from a technology perspective, that's their professional background, I imagine, in the main.
Yeah.
I mean, you're picking up on that phrase, you're talking about a rocket boost in this area. That's the message I presume you want them to take back to their broader teams.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, why are we doing this call? Why am I enthusiastic about talking to you in particular, those who are in the audience today? It's because, to say all power to your elbow. You've got our support. We'll do what we can to help, and to, in a sense, to try as much as possible to empower you to persuade others in the sector and beyond about the importance of this, because you really are the messengers of the value of technology in education, and spreading that message widely.